can you be open to the idea that there's no God? There's no God. Can you be open to the idea that there's actually nothing on the other side? There's no God.
Yes. Yeah, I've thought about it a ton.
Is it a fun feeling when you first explore that?
No, absolutely not.
It's not fun.
It's awful.
I don't know. Maybe River's different. Was it fun when you first questioned it?
No, it was. Well, I was questioning it because I believed the exact opposite, and so it was like kind of made me. My whole brain was like getting rewired.
Yeah.
When I thought that.
And I feel like that's similar, but the resistance. If somebody's done this and we're on, like you're listening to this anywhere, and you've gone and you felt something right there, like pay attention to that feeling. That's what I'm talking about. Like that to me is the ultimate resistance.
All right, guys, my name is River Skinner. Welcome to the Full Circle Podcast. Got my co-host, Mr. Jason LeVar Hershey.
Hershey.
Is that Spanish?
I don't know.
Okay.
LeVar, to wash in Spanish.
Oh, it is? There you go. I didn't know that. LeVar. Okay, sweet. Now I know that. And then we have Mr. Eric Gubler. What's Gubler mean in Spanish?
Handsome mofo.
A polygamist 5 generations back. That's
Five
really what it is.
Polygamist.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's who we were, yeah.
I love that. I love that. I didn't know that was what it meant in Spanish, but now I know. So excited to be here. Grateful to be that you're here. Grateful that you guys are all here and that we get to do this podcast together. I met Eric. It was actually a few years ago when I signed up for something called Real Estate Investing School. Eric was actually my coach. I kind of didn't really do much with it and kind of fizzled out of it. But when I moved to St. George, Eric kind of became someone I wanted to connect with because I saw him as an individual who's super successful, someone who is doing things that I want to do, someone who seemed to have like a positive mindset, was excited about life, had the entrepreneurial
That's how you
spirit.
seem to.
Yeah, and then you proved me wrong.
Still trying to figure it out.
That's to hang out. Well, from my perspective at that time, you seemed to say that know you on a good level, on a level really beyond just that one call that we had. Got to connect. You invited me to do like a personal development seminar with you. Got to know you some more. Became better friends, and now the seem to is I know that to be true. So anyway, I'm just excited to learn from Eric, kind of hear his story and where he comes from. Give us a little introduction. How many kids you got? 19. Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
So I'm not polygamous, never was, but so I have a wife, 1, and then 4 kids. They're 6 for 15 months and 4 months, just barely 4 months. So Irish twins right at the end. It's crazy right now. In fact, when I left, I work from home, and my wife it gives me this look like it's been hell today. And I'm just like, well, I'm going on a podcast. Here we go. So it's crazy, but fun. Like, we love it. At nighttime, it's like we high five and we're like, okay, well, let's get it for the next day. I love sports. I used to play. It's funny. Like, every time I say this, it comes out a little weird, but I used to play professional pickleball. Professional pickleball has gotten way bigger now. Like, people are actually making $1 million+ a year playing it. When I was doing it, it wasn't there yet, and I didn't see a future in that anytime soon. And plus, I'm 32 now, and the younger players at like 20, 21, like they're crushing. But that was a fun time, professional pickleball and playing that. And then I grew up playing baseball and racquetball and trying to get into golf, and that is freaking hard. But I love golf as well.
Why are you trying to get into golf? I'm trying to quit.
It's just because it's something hard.
Yeah.
It's like super challenging. But when I say getting into it, God, I don't go that much. I just like to. I think when I get some time, I probably wouldn't put it back into pickleball. I'll put it into golf.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah. So Jason has 4 kids. You guys, you have 4 kids. I want to ask both of you, because I know Jason's super driven. I know you're super driven. How is it like? Talk to me about like the balance of like being super motivated to like build a beautiful life, to make a ton of money, build your life and build your business, all while maintaining a good relationship. Because you're both married. You're like never been divorced, right? Like this is like one marriage. I know Jason's been married for 17 years this year. You've been married for 7. That's pretty impressive.
10 years on me.
It's pretty impressive, to be married for 7 years, multiple kids, 17 years. How what have you done to live in harmony between those? Because in my perspective, it's like juggling bowling balls. So how have you guys done it? Like, what's some things you've learned over the past 17 and 7 years?
Well, What do you think?
I know it's the cliche answer, but I just think I married someone awesome that puts up with it. Like, my wife supports 100% of my crazy ideas, and she is ride or die for me. And that's been a huge reason for my success. Is I think she 100% backs me in all that I do. I think balance is bullshit, and I don't think you're going to find it. Like, if you're looking to make a lot of money and you're looking to have balance, I think it's very, very unlikely that's going to happen. Like, from my perspective, people I've seen that are successful, in my personal circle, to myself, to like, if you're highly driven, which it's, if you're going to make a lot of money, you better be like I don't know. There is no real balance. It's just you do the best you can and you try and just ride the seasons of life. I don't know.
I agree. Well, you said it. You said harmony, and I like that word better than balance, because things can still be in harmony, but out of balance, but it still works, right? It doesn't feel off necessarily. Like, I also like to look at it as like life is like a bunch of balls that you're juggling, where you said like bowling balls, I think is what you said. Yeah. It's like if you think about juggling balls, I look at the family one as glass and every other one is rubber. So like work is rubber, fitness is rubber, which is kind of funny coming out of my mouth, but it is. You can get your fitness back. All these other things, right? But your family one's made out of glass, so you don't want to drop that one, right? So if it comes down to it and things are really out of whack, sometimes it is good to slow down and spend time with the family and make sure that is the priority. But I mean, I remember starting out 7 years ago as an entrepreneur and 16-hour days all the time. And there's just no time for wife. But then as you get more and more kids and you get to be able to stack more and more cash away, you do buy back that freedom a little bit. And I think that's important, is to try to buy back your time as much as you can. So like we order factor meals that come to us every month. So we eliminate cooking and dishes and a lot of that stuff. We have a nanny that comes by twice a week right now, so that my wife can buy back. It's like, what is it, like 6 hours each day? So 12 hours a week she gets, where she buys back her time, right? Things like that. I think you just have to get creative and use money to leverage so that you can get time back with your spouse and still be producing and creative and creating, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I heard this. What's that? Oh, sorry. I heard this thing the other day on I don't remember where I heard it, but he's like, hey, if you have an extra $1,000 a month to do whatever you want with, you can take that $1,000 a month and go buy a Lamborghini. You can go buy a truck. You can go buy whatever you want with $1,000 a month, right? You could probably buy some pretty cool toys. Or you can take the $1,000 a month and say, hey, instead of buying a Lamborghini, I can go buy a nanny. I can go buy like one of the things is a maid. Like, that was one of the first things I invested in. Was like, hey, once a week,
what's another one? Yeah, that we have. Yeah, it's totally worth it.
Like, so worth it to get
the stress, because it's not just the time. But you're talking about time. It's so good, but it's the time, energy, attention. Yeah. Right. Leverage money for those three. Yeah. Because then you feel better. Your relationship's better. Your relationship with your kids is better. All of that.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I've noticed with Jason too is like it kind of seems like there's seasons to it. Like there was seasons where Jason and I were working together. He would be, and I didn't really think it was a big deal at the time. Now that I have kids, I'm like, holy cow, what a sacrifice. He's flying out to Rhode Island, selling for a week, 10 days, 14 days, flying back home. And it's like he's working. And then there was a season, last year, it kind of felt like you're still working hard, but you're also got to spend a lot more time traveling with your family. And now it's kind of back to like, wartime or war season where it's like you're just hustling and grinding. And it just seems like there's different seasons for it. And that's kind of my takeaway. But then also using your resources to buy back that time through a nanny, through all this stuff like you're saying.
I think for me is I could very easily actually have a lot of time for my family right now. And that may sound terrible, but things got to a point where I was having a little more free time. And so I started 3 more businesses.
Well, that's not. It doesn't sound bad though.
No, it's not bad.
Because mental health for you, if you don't have those things, you're gonna go nuts.
Yeah, that's my therapy. Like and I used to laugh at people that say like I just love to work. My dad was pretty successful, and he'd always just be like, you just gotta fall in love with the game. And when I was young, I was like, that doesn't make any freaking sense. I hate this crap. I can't even pay my car payment. Like, what are you talking about? But now I'm just like solving problems and figuring out how to like move things in business is just so fascinating to me. And then figuring out the human psychology, with employees and like all the things that come with it. Like it keeps me, it's what motivates me. And so
it's your pickleball.
Yeah, it's yeah. And I enjoy, I have a lot of hobbies. I probably have too many hobbies, but so, I mean, I have my pickleballs too, but I think the big thing with family is I think Eric hit on the head is like, when you have to be self-aware enough. And I think most of us are, to know when the family ball, when your wife's giving you that side eye or starting to treat you in a certain way where it's like, I've probably pushed that a little too far and I need to like put work down. This has been my wife like the last 3 weeks. Like I need to put work aside a little bit and really give my wife attention, give my kids attention, because if you don't, we've all had friends or had people that were watching them go through. Yeah, they dropped the glass ball. They didn't value their wife. They didn't value their family. And now they're picking up this giant mess of divorce or separation or whatever it is. And it's like, you have to be self-aware enough. And I don't want to sound like I know it all, because at the end of the day, I often am like, dude, who knows? Like my wife could say enough's enough tomorrow. I don't know. Like I just don't ever want to get in that place. Like I know 100% what I'm doing, especially in marriage. Because I'm like, I feel like for everybody, it's just like this constant like learning that you have to be in, earning and learning.
Can I take that and like push it to, I mean, just like we're going to push it to same topic, but like same genre, but different topic. When you're talking about like, you get a divorce and things like that, I think that for years I was scared of that. And one of the game changers for me is not being scared of it anymore. So there's a saying that I love, and it's true in anything, is that what you resist will continue to persist. So if you're resisting something, if you're scared of a divorce, you're actually bringing it towards you closer because you're thinking about it more, because energy doesn't speak English. So law of attraction, if you're giving energy or place for something and thinking or worried about it, and that gets a fear, you're bringing it closer to your reality, not farther away. So it's actually important to be able to create space for that fear, right? So this is something that a good friend of mine, his name's Keith Yackey, said, and he was on a podcast that I run, and he said this. He's like, Eric, you should look at marriage like your cell phone provider. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, what would happen? Like, who are you with? I was like, AT&T. He's like, what would happen if they just stopped offering texting completely? Like, you're still paying the same, but they don't offer it at all. What's that?
So we found out last week.
You did you really, though?
No, but a bunch of people did.
With AT&T?
Yeah, AT&T went down for like...
Oh, yeah. No, me too. It sucked. But,
sorry.
But if texting no longer existed, like you couldn't you couldn't send a text message, and it was like you couldn't... It's not that you could pay more and get it. Like, they don't offer it.
It's just done.
It's done. What would you do? And I'm like, I would switch providers. And he's like, yeah. Like, you got to look at your marriage that way. Like, there's a set of non-negotiables, and the problem with most of Christianity is that you look at marriage like it is a sealed deal for time, all eternity, the whole bit. He's like, the problem with that is you just subconsciously will stop showing up. He's like, think about when you were dating. What made it magical? It was the perception of options. It was the perception that you both knew that you were both good looking and you both had options and you could date other people, but you're choosing to be with each other. And I was like, okay, I want to resist what you're saying because it's different than what I've been used to. But as I kind of let it in, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, it's not that you're choosing to get out of the marriage. It's not that you're even wanting to. It's that, hey, I'm trying to be the best version of me because that is going to make me the catch of the county or somebody that everybody would find attractive, including my wife. And if she does the same thing too, then we're in better harmony together, right? Then somebody else, like if I'm just sitting on the couch all day and I'm 300 pounds and I'm not working and finances are tight, but she's super fit into CrossFit, like of course that's going to, you know what I mean? And she's making all the money. That's going to end in divorce every single time. So you still have to have the perception of options, because if you don't, it's not like you go make an account on Tinder and like, see, I got 5 people on Tinder that want to connect with me. No, it's not that.
The matches if you don't get your act together.
It's not that. It's just that you are becoming the best version of yourself, and she is as well, and then that's what makes the magic for both. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah, I also think like it's easy to, once you're married, to kind of stop seducing your wife and to stop doing all the things. It's like, oh, we're married. It's like it's a sealed deal. Like, all right, like it's kind of like all the fun and the the lust and the playfulness kind of like, it's easy for that to die off. And that's one thing I've tried to focus on is like continuing to make it fun and make the energy exciting, as opposed to just being like, because you're just with each other all the time. So it's kind of just like, it's easy to kind of make things mundane when it doesn't need to be that way. And it's also like, there's also a lot of benefits. You don't want it to be like you were dating. Yeah. Like, I feel like marriage is different, offers a lot of other things that you don't want. You know, that's why you want to be married instead of just dating somebody. But keeping it playful, I think, is super, super important as well.
Like the sex swing that River told me about the other day that he used. It's actually a true story. I hope that's okay on camera. But I
love it.
But at the same time,
dang, I thought we were really good friends.
True. But here's what's funny, and I'm gonna shoot myself.
Told me about the strap-on.
I ordered one too. I ordered one. That's
it hurts
funny.
me every time.
Oh my gosh,
it hurts.
I ordered one too, and I'm not afraid to say that on camera. And here's why: it's like, you should be playful. What's wrong? What's wrong in and of itself with a swing or no a swing? That one's next, I guess, probably, right? But no, I don't think I could go there. But whatever you guys are like okay with as a couple. Like when I first got married, I grew up in the LDS faith, and the thought, like, I remember telling this guy in real estate that was mentoring me, and we were just about to get married, and he's like, and we were talking, and I was just asking him questions about sex because my parents didn't tell me anything, and then somehow out of my mouth, I still remember, I was like, yeah, but sex toys, like, I'll never do that. That's just like kinky, weird, like, that's just, why would you ever? And I'm like, where did that come from? I don't think I was ever taught that. But for some reason, it just felt like inauthentic, or we're not using each other's bodies. It's like, at the end of the day, you got to communicate about that stuff too. Like, you should have fantasies. You should, like, all of this stuff is good. It's okay. It's connecting. It's fun. It's playful. We should get rid of this bad rap.
Everything's so taboo.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, why? I think every guy wants it, and every girl wants to be, and I'm going to use this in like take this the right way. The girl wants to be a slut, and the girl wants to be freaking like the stud, like just a stud in the bedroom. But then we suppress that, and then I think we have sexual issues in the bedroom because we feel like we actually can't let that out.
Do you think it's worse because of the culture we live in, or do you think that's a pretty universal problem across America?
I think it's a universal problem. I do. I think it's just a human. I've heard tons of my friends outside of Utah talk about it too.
Same thing. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I just was curious what you thought.
That's my opinion. I have no numbers, but I've just friends and people that I know. It isn't really religion specific. It's human being. I think it's just lack of communication about those things.
That's what I was going to say. Is I think it just comes down, like, everything we're talking about just comes down to communication, and most of these most marriage problems they just stem from a lack of communication and 1,000%. Figuring out what each other want, and they just kind of give up on continuing to further the marriage, whether it's in the bedroom or whether it's in the kitchen. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, they just stop trying. You know, I remember when I first got married, I used to like vacuum for my wife. I used to do the dishes and stuff, and I couldn't tell you the last time I'd done that stuff. Like, but I was trying to impress her at that time, and now it's just like, she'll take care of that. But and that's me, like, thinking in my head, like, those are probably things I should get back to. But we have an iRobot, so I don't have to vacuum now.
Yeah.
different day and time. We used, for you young people, we used to actually have to pull that thing around with our hands.
So one thing I know about you, Eric, is like, we're talking about breaking these, I don't know, when you're talking about like stories. Sex taboos, you're talking about breaking a story, right?
A story, a filter.
But I feel like there's two examples I can think of that you've said to me. One, I wanted to hear this story about like you breaking this story of like, I need to have a piece of paper to make money. I need to have a diploma. And then the second thing is you're a real estate investor, but you're a full-time real estate agent. And we were talking at the gym this week, and you were talking about how a lot of agents think you need to just cold dial more leads, cold dial, like, or cold call. And you've kind of broken this like older model of like, hey, you don't need to do it that way where it's like such a grind. You can do it where you're more of you are attracting instead of pursuing. And it's like you have leads calling you don't need to call out. And so I want to hear those two stories of like, because I feel like those are two stories of you breaking a story and going into like a different mindset than what like a normal mindset is.
So I think it's interesting because we'll start with the school one. I think it all starts with self-educating, just learning books, reading books and learning through those books. So like all the greatest minds are just right at your disposal through Audible, or you can read a hard copy. And I think that's where it all started for me, is just getting into that. And as it's grown to where like you've read 50 books and 75 and 100 and 100 plus, like they all start to sound the same, but then you see a little bit different angle, or a life experience happens and then you see it through that filter, right? And then that shifts a story that you had. And so I'll say that like leaders are readers, and so you've got to read a lot if you want to be able to catch a story. My word for the year 2024 is unlearn. To unlearn. And I've thought about it, like unlearning is way harder than learning. It takes way more work, because how do you know what you need to unlearn and what you need to keep? And it's terrifying, actually. Like it takes a lot of like courage to step away and like not leaning into that fear, because you think that something bad is going to happen most of the time, and that's why you're not doing it, or you don't even know what you're doing. And so I remember when I stopped, I was like a year away from graduating at Dixie. At the time it was Dixie, now it's Utah Tech. And I was going into exercise science, and it just for me got to this point where I was like, I know I don't want to go into exercise science anymore, and I've gone down this path. And for me, it was actually like another 2 to 4 years or longer. And I was like, I think I can do it on my own because I know how to sell. I did door-to-door sales, and I was good. And so I was like, I can sell. So I made like tens of thousands of dollars doing this. Like, why wouldn't I just at least fall back on that? And so I dropped out, and my mom gave me the hardest time. My mother-in-law was like, we just got married, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law were like,
what are you doing?
Who do we let into our family? Like,
I need some money to buy a sex swing. Let's go.
Yeah, hopefully they don't get that clip. But it was tough. It was tough because everybody's against you. But then first year we netted over $100,000, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, I hadn't even imagined that for another 10 years, and we did it in one. And so that helped there's like this belief, BAR, it's like your bar, okay? Like it goes in a circle. Belief influences your action, which influences your result, which then it just circles back to your belief. It reinforces that belief. So my belief was I can do this. My action was I went and worked 16-hour days and worked my tail off because I knew nothing about business and forming an LLC and all that. The result was I made $100,000, which reinforced the belief that I'm good at this.
Yeah.
And then it just kept growing. And so you got to start somewhere, and it's led into other things. And then you bring up real estate. Like, traditional real estate is, all family, like family, friends, or cold call, and every single day you got to be on the phones every morning for, I don't know, if you really want to crush it, like 4 hours a morning or something like that. And I'm like, I don't want to do that the rest of my life. How can I do something that compounds? And like we were talking about at the gym, like how do I be a magnet where I attract people to me versus I've always got to go and get the new lead every single day. And it's social media, honestly, is the best. Like, all my business is from social media. And I've been called an albatross in St. George because not a ton of people do it. They're like, how do you close so many deals or make so much money in St. George and you don't buy any leads, you don't cold call anybody, and people just call you? And I'm like, social media. Like, you offer value and people know that's what you do, and they see you every single day. The most valuable piece of real estate is a 3x3x3 inch, a 3x3 inch box, and it's your phone. Like, that is the most valuable piece of real estate. It's where everybody's attention is, and it's free right now.
What's crazy is because I've spent a lot of time recruiting people on social media, kind of the same concept, like attract, don't recruit. And when you think about it, like, you go to your stories, every time you post a story, if you go look at how many viewers you have, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 500, maybe it's 1,000. But if you think about it, if I post 10 stories today, I have 500 people thinking about me, at least for 1 second, 10 times. So I have 10 seconds of someone's attention. And it's like I think that's like Grant Cardone talks about, like, money follows attention.
Yes.
It's all about marketing.
Currency.
It's money follows attention. It's like you're just putting yourself out there. So what are some, so when you talk about putting out value, putting it out on social media, what are some strategies you've learned on, like, how to attract, like, some actual tactical things you've done? It's like, okay, this is this is some things I've learned over the past 5 years.
That you don't know, so just post it. I mean, Ty was the one who taught me that. Like, some of your best reels and some of your best things that you post are just ones that you never thought would be good. So just get into it. The thing that I see keeping people back from it, if this is tactical, I don't know, but I'm just going to say it anyway, is like they're just scared of, I don't want to look stupid. This guy, I don't like how he runs social media, so I don't want to look like that guy. I'm not good on camera, whatever story, but it's a story. And like nobody starts out good at social media. Nobody. And so you've got to just put yourself out there. And then after a year or two, you'll start to get the hang of it and you'll get better. And your content's just going to get better if you're competitive at all. Because you just can't stand it not being good. And so you got to start.
The funny thing is, I've never met you prior to today.
Yeah.
But I knew exactly who you were.
Oh,
for whatever reason. I've seen this video about a $1.5 million pool on my Instagram about 700 times in the last 3 days from the parade. And I'm like, oh, that's the guy that we're doing a podcast with. That's cool. And then the video kept showing up and up and up. And I don't think I even follow you. So it just kept showing up in real.
It's shareable content.
I just thought it's
simple.
Interesting because I've seen your face. If I was walking down the street, I could have been like, oh, that's Eric. But I've never met you prior to 20 minutes ago.
That's awesome.
So
that's cool. I think we posted it yesterday, and it's a 20-second reel, and it's been shared now over 250 times.
Yeah, and I for some reason I've seen it multiple times. Like
it's been shared a lot in like 48 hours, and it's like that. So I gotta say that too. Don't just, if you're a real estate agent, don't post shit. I'm gonna tell you what shit is. Don't post just you. Hey, closed on a house. Hey, got this under contract. It's not shareable content. Like, this is a gem I'm giving you, I swear. Like, if in any industry, or if you're a real estate agent, don't post just stuff that's like, hey, if you need a real estate agent, give me a call today. Oh, hey, just so you know, I just got my license. You should give me a call today. Like, nobody cares. It's not shareable. It's not shareable. So the video that I did with the pool, it's a $1.5 million pool. That's cool. Not every pool is $1.5 million just for the pool.
Sweet.
And it's sick, right?
Yeah.
And it was a 20-second video, and it was just like there was this new product from Italy that soaks up the water into the sand. That was cool.
So you found like the most unique thing about the pool, from what I watched.
2 unique things,
right? And then you showed them, which is why people are like, oh, look at this new sand.
Out.
Check it out.
Yeah, and so who does it help? I don't know. It somehow helps me. You saw it, right? But it's shareable content. People want to share it because it's cool, or it's funny, or it's amazing. Whatever it is, you got to think down those lines. That's how you're going to get out there and get known, and that's how you're going to create business. I got to put it out there. I have 2,600 followers on Instagram. I think total, like all of my platforms, I have like slightly over 10,000 followers. I don't have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, but I make a ton of money off of social media. Like multiple 6 figures all coming from there, and I'm not paying for ads. And it's all because it's engagement. Like they're the right people in my industry that see me as an authority figure, and they give me a call when they want to buy real estate or sell it.
Yeah, I think people compare themselves way too much. Like, oh, I need to be, who's probably the most powerful social media influencers is like the Kardashians. Like the Kardashians, these other huge names, and it's like you don't need that. If you were to think about, you could have 10,000 people in a room, and they were just sitting there watching your video. That's like, when you think about it that way, like that's nuts. Or if you have 100 people, they look at your face every day. 100 people, that's like a lot of people, but we're comparing it to like these people that have like 5 million, 10 million, and it's like you don't need that to build a big business. I heard something talking about posting more content, and it's the story of basically there's in a pottery class, and there's two different people in the class, or 2 different groups. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I love it.
And there's 2 different groups in the class, and basically the assignment was to make the perfect pot, and they had however long to do it. And so these 2 groups, they had 2 different strategies. One strategy was, okay, we're just going to try to make the perfect pot, and we're just going to try to perfect this one pot. The other group, they said, hey, I'm going to go and make as many pots as I possibly can, and we'll see what turns out. And it turned out that the group that just tried to make as many pots as possible, their average pot was better than the group that tried to make the perfect pot.
Yeah.
And so like volume wins. Like just by doing something over and over and over and over and over again, you're going to learn. And so when I think about social media, it's like, yeah, you might post something and it might flop. That might be a bad pot. But you're going to do better than by trying to make one perfect piece of content. And like sometimes the most perfect piece of content turned out to be like, people hate that. It's like I feel like people like something that's real, more authentic. And it's like, I don't know, maybe people won't like it, send it. And people actually like that stuff typically more.
Yeah.
And that's not the actual story. That's what I remember about the story, and I made up the rest. But the point remains true, because you're all looking at me like that's not how it goes.
No, it's good. It proves the point.
I was like, yeah, I don't get the point across. But that's what I think about with social media, is like pushing. Yeah. You talk about like stories a lot. So talk to me, like when you say the word story, what does that mean to someone who's like never heard that terminology?
Dude, okay, like this is the hardest one. So we're all Christian in the room, yeah?
Yeah.
We believe in God.
Yes, sir.
At least, and Jesus Christ. We'll just say that. So I had a mentor of mine challenge me, and this was the hardest thing that I ever went through ever. And this is maybe the best way I can explain it. People would rather be right than know the truth, so they won't ever come off of they won't like separate themselves from that story. That, well, I'm not going to question it because I'm right. Well, how many of us have been wrong on things that we knew were 100% right? Like with our wives, for instance. No, I know I put it there and we're wrong. Or I know I paid that bill and we didn't. Like I've done it a million times over. But in my mind, I was 100% right I'd done it. And then you eat the frog because you didn't. Well, so going back to the God idea, I had a guy challenge me without knowing that this was what he was doing. Is he was like, I actually don't believe that there's any God. And he came up with all this, like, and this is a guy I trust. And he helped me work through some other religious things. And he like showed me how like there's no God and this is how the universe works and it's all about experience and everything. And he's like, can you be open to the idea that there is no God? There's no God. And I'll ask you guys, can you be open to the idea that there's actually nothing on the other side? There's no God.
Yes.
Yeah, I've thought about it a ton.
Is it a fun feeling when you first explore that?
No, absolutely not.
It's not fun.
It's awful.
I don't know. Maybe River's different. Was it fun when you first questioned it?
No, it was. Well, I was questioning it because I believed the exact opposite, and so it was like kind of made me. My whole brain was like getting rewired.
Yeah.
When I thought that.
And I feel like that's similar. But the resistance, if somebody's done this and we're on, like you're listening to this anywhere, and you've gone and you felt something right there, like pay attention to that feeling. That's what I'm talking about. Like that to me is the ultimate resistance for me. Like, no, there's a God. Like I can prove it a million times over. That feeling of like fear and anxiety or whatever, like just irritation, like, or I want to shut this podcast off because I don't like what they're saying. That feeling right there is what I'm talking about. You will defend things in your life, stories that don't serve you that hard, and you're not even aware that you're doing it.
Yeah, you see people disrupt relationships, business, personal, their whole life over these things.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to me. Actually, it was like I'll be careful how I word this, but it was one of the things that I really liked about River when we first met. So River started working for me like 10 years. It's actually been exactly 10 years ago. And he was 18 and I was 28. You know, I was quite a bit older than him. Thought I had things, but one of the things that like looking back that I really just respected, and I think it came from his dad, was his willingness to really be open to all possibilities in almost every occasion in life. And I was raised in a house where my family is very certain that we always know we're right. And you know, on everything. And so I never really hung out with anybody that was so okay with just kind of exploring like, well, that could be one possibility, but what about this? And so it's a big thing that I think has drawn my friendship to River over the years is like, and he'll oftentimes in a very tactful manner check me on it and be like, well, have you thought about it this way? And I'm like, son of a bitch. No, there's another perspective there. But yeah, I think that's super.
No, he is good at it. He's done it to me a couple of times. I was telling him about one at the gym that really helped me. It's just opening your mind to the possibility that you could be wrong. And if you can get there on everything and just be open, like there's no fear that you could be wrong. Because wouldn't you rather know the truth than just be right, but actually be wrong? I would. but it takes a lot of courage to get there.
The interesting thing for me is the more I've been able to practice that, and I'm far from perfect because I'm a stubborn human, but the more I've been able to practice that in my own life, I have found so much more peace, because it's not very peaceful to be in this forceful state of like, I have to be right. You know, whether it's about religion or whatever you might be even, you know, dealing with. I just said that because that's kind of where you started with it, but it's like, it's okay if my belief in my belief in God or my belief in religion is maybe not wrong or different than others. That's totally fine with me at this point. Like that used to really bother me. Like I really, you know, it actually, the opposite bothers me more now, which is when I go to my religion and hear others within the religion that I choose condemn people that have something different. I'm like, man, I know a lot of really great people that aren't along those same thought patterns. And I think we really should just be more open to that. And that's, I'm using religion, but I think in all areas of life, like,
sure.
Like just being more open to like, hey, just because that guy does something different or has a different thought process, you've lived a totally set of different life experiences that's led you to that. So
yeah, force versus power. I know you just finished that. Did you read that one too?
No, I've never read that book.
You mentioned force, like if I'm trying to force it, and it's like in that concept is that you're just using low energies, like low frequencies to force something to happen. You're using fear, you're using courage, but that's still low energy. You're using ego, like things like that. And then what you're causing on the other side, it's a win-lose. Like you feel like you're winning by force, but then whoever's on the opposite receiving side is feeling regret, or they're feeling they're definitely feeling fear. They're feeling shame and guilt and things like that. And those are even lower levels. So we're causing this. Just all these low energy frequencies are just getting shot back and forth at each other. Whereas if you live in power, you're willing to question. You're willing to like just be authentic, be with the fear, be with the pain, because then it's not scary anymore. It's just an illusion. It's just something that hasn't happened yet that could happen, but you're not scared of it happening. It's just an experience. And I think being able to get there where you're okay with experiencing anything and quit saying this is good and this is bad and terming it, then life is just an experience, and you can experience it and get rid of those filters or those stories that really just hold you back.
Do you feel like, so for me, I feel like a ton that I go through these seasons of that where I'm doing really good at attracting and using the power. And then I go into, you know, really forcing it. Sure. And it's like this constant.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like because you have to be able to pull both of them, like almost like arrows in your quiver. Like in sports, how do you live in power? Well, you can't be kumbaya. Like you got to go win. In war, like if the other side is just going to come and crush you, like you kind of need to just like be a man for a second. There's seasons where
sometimes you have to force it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you start the war, and that's a different topic. But if you got to go defend your family and your country, well, you got it. So we can't just go again like this is the answer to life. No, it's a tool. That's how I look at it. It's a tool that you can use when it's appropriate. And as we get more mature, because I'm the same way, but as I use it more and I'm more familiar with the tools, then I know when to pull out which one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I've never thought about it that way of like force isn't bad. It's just it's something you need to understand when the right time to use it is, not just like, hey, I'm going to turn this off and just be Mr. Hippity Dippity and turn into just the attractor. Because I actually feel like that's huge. I think that's really, really.
There are situations in life that have to be win-lose. I can't see another way. But if we're talking about business, let's try and make it win-win.
Don't you think, like, are you open to the possibility that like there is an opportunity where there's always like a win-win situation? Like, I think like if you're God, right? If you're God, I don't think you go down to force ever. Like I think even when you're like, here's an example in the Bible. I think when Jesus flipped the tables at the temple, right? Some could say that he was forcing something, but maybe he was operating out of power, and it just people were viewing it as force. But like I think there's like a level of like vibration or thought that's so far beyond what we can comprehend, unless we were truly at the highest like consciousness level. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like I just don't think like from my limited brain. It's like, I don't see how we can do it from here, But if I was up here, if I was at God level, there'd be these other like possibilities that I wouldn't even consider.
I think if you're using force strategically, though, it's not necessarily a bad thing anymore. Like if you're kind of based off what Eric's saying, like if you're using it as a tool rather than just like this thing that drives you to want to freaking quit almost because it's just, you feel like you're beating your head against the wall.
I think being consciously aware of that's what you're doing.
Because most of the time, if I feel like I'm in force, it takes me like 3 days to be like, oh, dude, I've been beating my head against the wall for 3 days. But if I can get to a conscious space of knowing like, no, I'm going to go force this to happen, and it's not going to be 3 days from now that I feel exhausted because I was using force. No, it's going to be a strategic decision. Then it almost force becomes power, but is the way I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, well, I think operating like that is out of power and forceful. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, sports is a tough one because sports somebody has to lose, but how they perceive it is out of my control. But they can still make it a win-win if they perceive it a certain way, right?
Yeah.
But their perspective is out of my control. So if I'm consciously aware of what I'm doing to win, it's up to them to choose whether I didn't make them. And I think if you're consciously aware of doing that, I think you come a little bit more power. Does that make sense? But what I'm saying is we term it as you lost. And I get it. Like they did. Points are scored. It's black and white. This person was the one who won the game, and this person was the one who lost, right? But how they perceive that is up to them, and it's up to me, right? I'm just saying, like, I don't think that you can be like namaste, kumbaya, and go and win, like, at the highest level in the NFL and go win the Super Bowl. Like, there's a level of tenacity that needs to be there. I do believe that there's Gandhi who's able to, like, stop world wars and crazy, like, bloodshed all over by just, like, fasting for however many days he did to stop wars. And that's living in power. We live in an imperfect world, though, and that's where I say you got to know when to pull it out to be able to play the game and experience life. Because I don't think it's good or bad. It's just knowing when to use it and what you're doing.
Yeah,
you know why you're using it. Yeah, being tactful and you're conscious of what you're doing.
Yeah. So I was watching this TV show called Quarterback on Netflix.
Love it.
And there's Patrick Mahomes,
yep,
and then there's Tom Brady, arguably the two best quarterbacks in the NFL, right, or have ever played the game. And both of them, I thought it was really interesting when the defensive line was going to like sack them or get close to Tom Brady or to Patrick. They would both always compliment the defensive line. Hey, good play, man. Hey, you're a stud. Like whatever. Like it's what they'd always say, as opposed to like force of being like talking crap to him.
Okay, we gotta be careful with the word always, but yeah, most of the time. Most of the time.
Yeah, I'm sure there's times it was like talking shit, but that's what they would strategically do. Was they were trying to get the other person to like the quarterback
when they were in a powerful position.
But they're conscious of it too, right?
Yeah,
they know what they're doing, and it's smart. It's just it's a tool.
Yep.
Right.
I thought that was interesting. So talking about power, talking about attracting and creating, or forcing things through power,
strategically
forcing stuff. What are some things that are like in your mind's eye, like you're looking to create? I know you're talking about stuff with your spouse.
That's the thing that fires me up the most. Is this year more than any other year, we're done having kids, and we really want to be able to build a $10 million business in revenue together.
Beautiful.
And so we just dropped a bunch of money on a home gym. We have a home gym. We're moving it from our 1-car garage to our 2-car, making it bigger. And we just ordered everything we could ever think of in that gym. We're making it a cool vibe, cool lights, like everything the way that we want it. We have a 3D rendering, and we're like adding to it so we can see what it's like. Like we're putting a lot of, actually way more time than I thought that we would into this thing. And then we have another room upstairs that we're not using that we're just going to call our creation room. And our creation room is just going to be a bunch of whiteboards from like the ceiling to the floor on one wall. And then, like, again, lighting, mood, colors. There'll be a couple computers. It's where we're going to meditate in the morning. It's where we're going to write down our affirmations and our goals. And to be able to come together as a couple, like, hey, here's yours, here's mine. These are my personal, and these are our couple goals. And let's help support each other and move our family in the direction that we want to. And we just started doing that about a month and a half ago. And it's a game changer. Like harmony is enhanced because we're communicating better and there's a space for it.
You guys go in there like every day together?
So the room isn't created, but we're doing it right now. We're just creating more like, now we're actually creating our room where it's got the vibe.
Yeah.
Because that has energy too. Like architecture has energy, and that's something I never considered before. But like, think about it. When you go to work, if you work at a cubicle versus you go to work at, I just was at Traeger headquarters up north. Millions of dollars in art and furniture and Xboxes and soda machines and, I mean, just like abstract, like it is the coolest vibe. And it hit me there. My first thought was, how stupid was it to be able to spend, millions of dollars on all this stuff? And I'm like, it's genius, because who's going to want to leave? So now you're saving money on hiring people because they want to be there. And are they happy at work, or just kind of like in a cubicle, like, oh, I just want to get out of here? No, they're pumped. They love the vibe. Are they going to work harder? I think so.
It's an investment into the
culture.
culture.
It's an investment in the culture. And so that's how I look at this room and the creation of this room that we're putting together, is we're dumping money into it as an investment. And most people don't look at it that way. They think I have to have, if I put a dollar into a machine, I got to have $2 come back. They're not willing to invest in themselves and then indirectly make 4x, 10x, because they can't see it. It's not as visual, right? And so we're focusing on that more than anything this year, and it fires me up, honestly, more than most things right now. Just being able to do more stuff as a team.
That's awesome. What'd you do to get your wife like bought into this? Was she like all in from the beginning? Was it like,
this is a question that a lot of male entrepreneurs have.
Yeah.
I think. How do I get my wife on board with being an entrepreneur? You can't force it. I mean, anybody that's been married long enough knows that they can't. If you're at the beginning, you may think that you can. You can't. They're going to do what they want to do. Lucky enough to where she is driven and she wants to. But it hasn't been like that for years, because she's been with babies, right? And now she finally sees the light of the tunnel. Her season is coming to an end of breastfeeding and having babies and all of that. And so now she's like, oh my gosh, I can get into this. We went to a mastermind together, and I huge advocate for masterminds, but I was always going by myself because she was always with the kids. And we fought hard to just get babysitter. And we even took the youngest. She was 3 months old, or 2.5 when we went, because it was just a month and a half ago. And that, just being able to go, and she felt that fire. And like, I just shut up. Like, if the baby started crying, I would take the baby out so she could be there. I created a space for her to be able to experience that. And it just happened on her own. Like, we were around other couples that wanted to do things together. She felt that energy. She got inspired on her own. And I didn't have to say a word. I didn't have to sell her on anything. Now we just rock and roll together.
Just have Brody and Andrea do it.
That's how we do it. We pay the plane ticket and the money to be able to get out there and have Brody and Andrea do it. Yeah, and I've thanked them both.
That's so awesome.
And she has too. It's been awesome.
That's sweet. Yeah. Dude, I want to tell you that I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you coming on here. Like, I think you're someone that makes me think differently when I'm around you. You make me feel like I want to be a better person, a better businessman. But I also, like, really like your perspective, because whenever we talk, it's, like, not surface-level conversations. And that's kind of what I think you brought here today. I mean, we had sex swings within 5 minutes, so swinging a hit. We nailed it.
I would have never said any of this stuff 2 years ago.
Yeah, actually.
Filters are coming off for sure.
Has this always been, like you're, like, pretty focused on self-development? Has this been like something that's pretty new to you? Like, is it like a new, like, okay, no, I'm going all in on this? Or is this how you've been the past, for your whole life?
At the season that I was in, I felt like it was all in. Everything that you care about is how you do everything that you care about. It's not everything that you do is how you do everything. It's how everything you care about. So I care about sports at a young age, and I was first team All-State, Region 9 MVP. Like, I was good. I knew what it took to be, like, do something at a high enough level. And so I think it's important as a young, if there are any young listeners, or if you have kids that are young, teach them how to do something really, really good at a high level. Because once you learn anything at a high level, in my opinion, now anything that you actually care about, you can do it at a high level.
You just learn the pattern.
Yeah, you learn the pattern. You learn the cheat code. And so, but you grow. And that's what's fun about self-development. It's never ending. Like, sports comes to an end.
Yeah.
Self-development doesn't, and that's what's fun. You can always develop something.
Yeah. With
yourself. And it's so... I get fired up about that, but am I a different person than when I got started? Absolutely. Like, do I do more, I feel like, or do I do it more purposefully or with more intent or more energy or, all of it. But that's because you grow too in the process.
Yeah. You just transition all those things that you've learned through sports into this.
Yeah. And your 100% changes. It gets better.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. I appreciate
fun.
your time.
And thanks for saying that. I feel the same thing about you, and just met you today, but dude, it's great to meet you, and I'm hope that we get to do more than just you see me on Instagram and a video about a pool.
About the pool. Yeah, no. Looking forward to getting to know you better.
Yeah, cool.
Where can people find you online besides the pool
I
video?
like Instagram the best, just at Gubler. I also have a podcast that you've been on, the Eric Gubler podcast, on all the platforms that you can think of. So hit me up, though, if you're going to reach out, just Instagram. That's probably the best way and what I check the most.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Gubler on Instagram. Hit him up.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. That's always fun.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next time on the Full Circle Podcast. Be positive and confident in all that you do, and most importantly, go be abundant. Peace and love.